communities. I'm so glad you're with me today. I want to share some really interesting research that's been coming up. And the first piece of research has to do with stress. Almost every day, someone will ask me, could stress really be part of my osteoporosis? Could it be part of my allergy? Could it be part of my depression? And of course, I've been telling them for years, stress really does affect every single cell in the body. Now we have some interesting research by my colleague, Kara Fitzgerald. She's a wonderful functional medicine doctor. She's written this book, Younger You. I've spoken about the book before. She developed a diet that increased or optimized methylation within the body. And methylation is simply a situation where molecules, this combination of carbon and hydrogen, perhaps it's like 3 carbons, 1 hydrogen, or perhaps it's one carbon and 3 hydrogen ions. It is attached to a molecule. That's called a methyl group. 1 carbon, 3 hydrogen. That methyl group attached to molecules and kind of helps the molecules decide what to do. When that methyl group attaches to the DNA, it tells which genes should be expressed, activated, and which genes should be silenced. So it's very interesting. She has figured out a diet that helps the body turn on the beneficial genes that lead to a longer life, and that's why her book is called Younger You. And also the genes that the ones you want to turn on and the ones you want to turn off. Now, the interesting thing, recently Kara was giving a podcast. She has a wonderful podcast, which is you can look up Kara Fitzgerald Functional Medicine Podcast. And she revealed that in this research they did with a large number of people, they found that a full 25%, excuse me, 25% of all the genes that affect aging are influenced by stress, by the glucocortical steroid receptors. So we have another documentation that stress clearly affects not only bone health, but it affects aging. And so if you say, I want to get my methylation going properly, we know we want to increase these beneficial methyl donors. What are methyl donors? Things like B12, things like folate, things like choline. These substances help the body produce these methyl groups that then tell, like the DNA, which genes to turn on and which genes to turn off. And we know that there's certain adaptogens that help aid in methylation. That's like quercetin, which we love, ECGC, vitamin C. These substances, these adaptogens, help the body methylate also. The point of all this, it's a great book if you're interested in methylation, if you're interested in reversing aging, but also know it verifies that stress is terrifically damaging to the bone and to our internal clocks that establish the aging process. Now, the second thing I want to share with you is a startling news about this drug called Metformin. You've probably heard of Metformin. It was considered to be a fairly innocuous drug for this whole problem with diabetes, keeping blood sugar stable. In fact, many people were taking it just because they wanted their blood sugar to be nice and low, because when you have high blood sugar, it kind of stresses the body. And so they've been giving it very freely. Now, this new large study with over 9,000 people that was done in Taiwan, and what they found is the use of this metformin, even for anything more than 300 days, was doubled the risk for Alzheimer's disease and for Parkinson's. Dementia and Parkinson's were doubled using this drug. So the word is out now. It's not a good thing to do. And we know we want to stabilize blood sugar naturally. Everything we do in our programs is like the chromium, like the vitamin C, the B vitamins, all these things help to stabilize blood sugar. And we'll actually be producing a new product that actually will help stabilize blood sugar specifically. But pay attention to controlling that blood sugar, but think twice about metformin because it's definitely just been blacklisted. And the last thing I want to talk to you about is our favorite mandala, is our favorite idea that there's many steps to the Better Bones program, and that everything is interrelated. Every single step is interrelated. And this new research that I'm going to talk about is air pollution and osteoporosis. Now, this was a pretty clever study at Columbia University. And they said, let's see, as the air becomes more polluted, does it affect osteoporosis, the amount of bone loss? And they looked at very large populations in some of these US studies. And what they found was that it was looking over 3 years, and they said that a 10% increase in air pollution, and they were particularly looking at nitric oxide, 10% increase over 3 years was associated with a doubling of the rate of aging bone loss. So in other words, if you were losing a 0.5% a year, you were going to lose 1% a year when you got exposed to this air pollution. So that brings us to the question of, how do we handle air pollution? We know that we want to have filters in our house. We know that we want to keep our personal environment as clean as possible, but we also know that we can't control all of this. And so certainly, while we'd all like to live in the country, if we're living in areas that are polluted, it's extra important to have your antioxidants, because the damage from this pollution is oxidative damage. So when we think antioxidants, what are we talking about? We're talking about vitamin C, we're talking about quercetin, we're talking some degree about vitamin E, we're talking about all these colorful fruits and vegetables, which are all part of the alkaline diet. We know that if our pH in the morning is 6.5 to 7.5, we got a good start. We probably got enough magnesium, another important nutrient for detoxification. So let's all work to clean up the environment. Let's all work to create a safer world, but know that in the meantime, we better all protect ourselves with an adequate level of antioxidants. I'll be looking for some simple tests you can do to gauge your antioxidants, to gauge your antioxidant need. But we know now, if your pH is not 6.5 to 7.5, you need magnesium. We know if your ascorbate if you can take lots of the buffered ascorbate powder, the alkalinity C, and not get a loose stool, then you still need more ascorbate. Everyone should do what we do know. Research has shown that the average person needs 2 grams of ascorbate. That's almost that's like a teaspoon and a half of our vitamin C powder, just to excrete the heavy metals that we're exposed to every day in the food, air, and water. Now throw onto it these other pollutants, throw onto the other toxins that are stored in the body that we have to neutralize. There's a lot we can do, and let's pay attention. Let's do it. Let's clean up the environment, clean up our bodies. We'll all be better.